Namaskaram, and welcome to Prabandhams and Stotrams class conducted by Heritage of India classes. We are continuing with the padigam tarutuyaram taDAyEl, a padigam written by Sri kulasEkhara AzhvAr from his Prabandham called perumAl tirumozhi. This is the fifth padigam or tirumozhi from that Prabandham. It's called tarutuyaram taDAyEl. It's named after the first verse of that padigam, and today is part 2. I've started the recording already, and these are the resources which remain the same as from last week. So the only comment that I would make is that if you are unable to read Tamil script, and if the English transliteration is uncomfortable for you, then whatever language you are most comfortable with, print a version of the padigam in that script from the Prapatti website and bring it to the class. So last week we saw that in general, before we start reciting an AzhvAr's pAsurams, we generally recite something called Podu Taniyans or common Taniyans. The Taniyans are glorification of the Acharyas and AzhvArs. The Podu Taniyans are the glorification of the Acharyas and all the AzhvArs. And then there are Prabandham specific Taniyans which glorify the specific AzhvAr and are the specific Prabandham. The Podu Taniyans, there are 5 of them. I taught 3 of them last week. The first one is a salutation to Swami Desikan, generally recited by people of the Vadakalai persuasion. There's another one for the Tenkalai. I will teach that later. It's about Sri Manavala Mamanigal. The second Podu Taniyan is about the Guru Parampara, salutation to the lineage of Acharyas. The third one is a salutation to Bhagavat Ramanujar. So we learned all these 3 last week, and we said that we will teach the 4th Podu Taniyan today, and then the 5th one we will teach in the next class. However, we will recite all the 5 of them today. So let me spend a few words teaching the meaning of this 4th Podu Taniyan. So as it says here at the top, this is a salutation to Sri Nammarvar. Sri Nammarvar is considered the head of all the AzhvArs. He's also considered an Acharyan, and so he is perhaps the most respected AzhvAr among the 12 AzhvArs. He has written 4 Prabandhams, and more than any other AzhvAr, his Prabandhams are equated more directly with the Vedas. There are 4 Vedas, and there are 4 Prabandhams of Sri Nammarvar, and it is said that there is a one-to-one correspondence between his Prabandhams and the 4 Vedas. So even though the Divya Prabandhams as a whole are called Tamil Marai or Tamil Vedas, the Prabandhams of Sri Nammarvar are specifically said to be very direct essence of the Vedas. And of those, Tiruvaimuri in particular is the most celebrated Prabandham. And Swami Desikan refers to Tiruvaimuri as Dravida Upanishad. So in this picture on the left, you can see Sri Nammarvar in a self, so he's advising himself here. You can see that, that mudra pointing at himself. So that's because in the very first pasuram of Tiruvaimuri, so he's teaching his own mind about a few things. He says, Tuyar arus sudaradi torudaran manane. So he's addressing his mind. He says, "O mind, worship the shining feet that removes the cycle of birth and rebirth and rise." So because he's advising himself, that Upadesa Mudra, that mudra is called the Upadesa Mudra. That's the thumb and the forefinger connecting together. And then the palm facing inward, that just means that he is advising himself. So this is in Kanchipuram. So you can see the Vigraham of Sri Nammarvar in a self Upadesa Mudra. And so he's flanked by Sri Madhurakavi AzhvAr on one side. Madhurakavi AzhvAr was his disciple, and he was also a scribe of his. He's the one who recorded the pAsurams of Sri Nammarvar. And he was more or less the voice of Nammarwar. See, Nammarwar communicated the world essentially through the pAsurams that he more or less dictated to Sri Madhurakavi AzhvAr. And on the other side is Sri Nathamuni. Sri Nathamuni is an acharya who came later. He was responsible for retrieving the Divya Prabandhams that had been lost, and he retrieved them essentially by reciting Sri Madhurakavi Azhvar's Prabandham called Kanninun Siruthambu 12,000 times. And then according to the legend, Sri Nammarwar appeared before him and gave him not only the 1,000 pAsurams that Sri Nathamuni thought were missing, he actually gave him 4,000, all the 4,000 Nalayara Divya Prabandhams. But anyway, so Sri Nammarwar is considered the head of all the Azhvars. And so in many cases, people pay a special salutation to him just as the head of the Azhvars, okay? So let me try to give you the meaning of this. So there's a very simple meaning for this Sanskrit verse. So it simply says that Sri Nammarwar is everything to the Adiyars, to the Vaishnavite community. Okay, so there will be a reference to Kulam here. That Kulam refers to the community of Sri Vaishnavites or Adiyars. So he's everything. He is Mata. So Mata, you know, means mother. So as I mentioned to you before, when we go through Sanskrit verses, I think the one thing you should try to do is try to learn at least 2 words from each of these verses. And you will find that over a period of time, your Sanskrit vocabulary would be astounding. And so in giving the meanings here, I'm suggesting the 2 specific words that I would like you to memorize, but you're welcome to memorize any other words as well. So this is about Nammarwar. The question is, where exactly in this verse do you see Sri Nammarwar's name? Well, so he's not referred to directly by his original name. I said he's referred to by this name of Vakula Bharanar. So Vakula refers to what in Tamil is known as Magirampu. So the story is that Sri Nammarwar was born in AzhvAr Tirunagari, and he spent all of his life in AzhvAr Tirunagari. And the perumAl from the AzhvAr Tirunagari temple, he was delighted by Sri Nammarwar, and he honored him by garlanding him with Vakula Bharanam, that is a garland of Magirampu flowers. So one of his names is Vakula Bharanar. So this is where you will see a reference to him, Vakula Abhiramam. Okay, so that's exactly where he's being referenced. So that's how you know that this whole verse is about him. Now, so Vakula Abhiramam. And then the bottom, the last line says, Srimat Tadangri Yugalam Pranamami Mudna. Pranamami. Again, I would like to show that there are many words that you think you don't know the meaning of. However, you know several words that are related to them that you use in your daily language. So pranamami, that is, I offer my pranams. Mudna is with my head. Okay, so I offer my pranams with my head to what? To Angri. Angri is feet. Yugalam means the pair of feet. Irandu adigal, irandu tiruvadigalukkum. So Angri is a word that you should try to learn from this verse, because you will find that the same word appears in the next verse, which we will teach next week as well. That Angri Yugalam. So Pranamami Mudna. So I offer my pranams with my head. I bow my head to his 2 feet. That Angri feet. Yugalam, those 2 feet. Srimad, glorious. So Vakula Abhiramams. So the one who is beautified by the Vakula flowers, I worship with my head his glorious feet. Well, it goes on to say many other things about him. He's our Mata. When we say our Mata, is referring to the Vaishnava, Sri Vaishnavite community. He's our Pita, he's our father. Yuvatayas. So Yuvati means young girl or young woman. So in this case, it refers to the wife, Yuvatayas. Tanaya means son. So in general, it means children. So Tanaya, you may have heard of a movie of taDAyEl, Tanayan, for example. So you see, Tanayan means the son. You're already familiar with the word. Now, Vibhuti is a word that you should learn, because that word appears very often in the Vaishnavite Paribhasha. And Vibhuti literally means wealth or sottu. So possession, sottu, so for example, in Vaishnavite language, people would say that Emperuman has two kinds of vibhuti. So for example, the Paramapadam or Sri Vaikuntham, where he resides, that is called Nitya Vibhuti. So that is his sottu, that is his possession, his wealth, and it is called Nitya because it is eternal. And he has another kind of vibhuti, which is the universe that we live in. And that universe that we live in is called Leela Vibhuti. Leela, as you know, means play. So this Vibhuti, where we live, this universe where we live, is a playground of his. So it is still a possession of his, and everything in it is a possession of his. We, our Jivatmas, are also a possession of his. And so that Leela Vibhuti is also a possession of his. So Vibhuti in general means wealth, and the specific context in which the word Vibhuti is used most often in the Vaishnavite literature is in the context of Nitya Vibhuti, which is the Paramapadam or Sri Vaikuntham, and the Leela Vibhuti, which is the universe that we live in. So the first line says, is our mother, father, wife, children, and wealth. Sarvam, so is everything, so everything else. Yadeva, niyamena, niyamena means always. And Madan Vayana, for those in my community, the community of Sri Vaishnavites, Adhyasya, Avardhan Adi, he is the foremost one, Adhyasya. Nah Kulapate, Nah means Namudaya, Kulapati, Kulatin Pati, the leader of our Kulam, that is the leader of the Adiyar Kulam, the Vaishnavite, Sri Vaishnavite community. And then it, of course, names him Vakula Abhiramam, that is the one who is beautified by Vakula flowers. He's the one who is all of this. And then I worship with my head his glorious feet. Okay, so that's the simple meaning of this verse. And this is the fourth Taniyan from the Podut Taniyans. Okay, so I will teach you how to chant it. Now, in general, when you chant this particular verse, between the first line and the second line, there is usually no pause or almost no pause at all. When I teach it to you just now, because if I teach the first two lines together, it will be too long for you. I will pause after the first line. However, when I play the Goshti chanting, you will find that after the first line, it almost doesn't stop. It goes directly to the second line, okay? So for example, so let's start with the first one. So when I say it the first time, just listen to me. When I say it the second time, just say it along with me, okay? And please keep yourself muted. Mata pita yuvatayastanaya vibhutihi. Mata pita yuvatayastanaya vibhuti. Sarvam yadeva niyamena madanvayanam. Sarvam yadeva niyamena madanvayanam. Adyasya nah kulapaterva kulabhiramam. Adyasya nah kulapaterva kulabhiramam. Srimat tadangriyugalam pranamami mudna. Srimat tadangriyugalam pranamami mudna. So again, we will try to be faithful to the Sanskrit consonants. For example, if whenever you see an H, but BH, for example, it's with bhuti. And so the DH would be the, etc. Okay. So the first line, and then the second line, it will go something like Mata pita yuvatayastanaya vibhuti sarvam yadeva niyamena madanvayanam. So you'll notice that I almost didn't pause after the first line. So that's the way it will be recited. And that's the way that the next one will be recited as well. But the next verse, the fifth and final Podut Taniyan, we will look at the meaning of that next week. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Goshti chanting of it. It'll go through all the five. It'll go through all the five Podut Taniyans. So let's do that. And keep yourself muted, and then say it along.
Ramanujayapatram jnana vairagya bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedanta Desikam Lakshminatha Samarambham Natayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padam Bujayugma Rukma Yamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmadgurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Mata Pita Yuvatayasthanaya Vibhuti Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Madanvayanam Adyasya Nakulapaterva Kulabhiramam Mattadangri-yugalam Pranamami Mudna Bhutam Sarasya Mahadakvaya Bhattanata Sri Bhakti Sara kulasEkhara Yogi Vahan Bhaktangri-renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimad Parankuja Munim Pranatosmi Nityam.
Okay, so those are the 5 Bodhitanyans, and now we are ready to recite the 2 Prabandham specific Tanyans. So we have gone through the meaning of these 2 Tanyans last week, so we will go directly to chanting them, okay? We have to go to 144. Okay, here we go.
Innamudamuttigen inge va paingiliye Ennarangam paadavalla seer perumAl Ponnam silai ser nudaliyar verseralarkon Engal kulasEkhara nendre kuru Arangada parananbar kollarendu அவர்களுக்கே வாரங்கொடு கொடப்பாம்பில் கையிட்டவன் மாற்றலரை வீரம் கெடுத்த செங்கோல் கொல்லி காவலன் வில்லவர்கோன் சேரன் குலசேகரன் முடிவேந்தர் சிகாமணியே.
Okay, so those are the 2 Prabandham specific Tanyans. Okay, so now we are ready to start learning the actual Padiyam. So everything that we have done so far is by way of getting to the first verse of the Padiyam, okay? Now, so just by way of preface, so if you consider a wedding, for example, when the bridegroom ties the wedding knot, he establishes a relationship between himself and the bride, namely the relationship of a husband and wife. Now, however, an acharya, a post-Ramanuja acharya called Pillai Lokacharya. By the way, on this slide, you will see a lot of pictures. Don't pay attention to the pictures for the time being. They will become clear later. So because you will come back to this slide later, and at that point, you will understand all the pictures that you see. But there was an acharya in the post-Ramanuja period called Pillai Lokacharya. And what he said was that when you recite the Tirumantram, the Ashtakshara Mantram, the Om Namo Narayanaya, you're not establishing just one relationship as people do when the bridegroom ties the wedding knot around the bride's neck. You are actually entering into 9 kinds of relationship with Emperuman, and he enumerated them. For example, the father-son relationship. Of course, the Emperuman is the father. We the Jivatmas are the son. Then similarly, a protected relationship, a master-servant relationship, a husband-wife relationship, etc. So there are 9 different relationships that he said are established between the Paramatma or the Emperuman and the Jivatma, which are us, okay? So I'll come back to this slide later. I'll go through this particular verse also later. Now, the relevance of this in the context of this kulasEkhara Azhvar's Padiyam is that the first 9 pAsurams of this padigam essentially state that that we are related to Emperuman in these 9 ways. It doesn't use exactly this terminology, but you will find that in every verse it says that I have this relationship with you, and it gives an analogy to illustrate that relationship. So the first 9 pAsurams out of the 10 describe these 9 relationships that we have with Emperuman. And then the last verse, the last pAsuram, of course, describes the Palashruti, the benefit of reciting this padigam. But I will come back to this slide when we have learned all the 10 pAsurams. So now let's go to the very first pAsuram from this padigam. It's called, of course, the padigam itself is referred to as tarutuyaram taDAyEl, and that's because the very first verse begins with those words, tarutuyaram taDAyEl. Okay. Now, the introduction to this particular pAsuram is this: we all feel overwhelmed by life's problems at various points in our life. And these problems, these adversities, test our faith severely. For example, somebody in the family is sick, and maybe in a serious sort of way. The teenagers are acting up. There are other relationship problems. The work is getting to us, etc. So we really feel overwhelmed, and we sometimes feel that Emperuman singled us out for punishment. Even though we understand the concept of karma, the past karma, we see only our present life, and we see that we have been good all of our lives, and yet we are subjected to all of these miseries. So in that sense, we are very frustrated. And I would say that the purpose of this padigam, the way I look at it, is to teach us how to deal with adversity in general, how to deal with situations like that. So, for example, some people would really get frustrated with the concept of a God. They would say, if there really is a God, he would not be giving me all these hardships, for example, right? So that's one particular reaction. In other cases, people might just become indifferent. And maybe in other cases, people may be drawn more toward Emperuman, because at that point, when they are overwhelmed by all these problems, they realize that they have nobody else to go to except Emperuman. Okay, so you will find that that last one is the attitude that kulasEkhara AzhvAr takes in this entire padigam. In fact, he keeps repeating the mantra over and over again, which is that I have nowhere else to turn except you. So I would say that the right reaction when you are dealing with life's adversities is not to go away from Emperuman, but in fact go more towards him, because we really have nobody else other than him. So that's the point that this particular pAsuram, and in fact this whole padigam, is going to teach us. So here in the very first pAsuram, the beauty of this padigam is that every verse, from 1 through 9, gives a beautiful analogy to illustrate the point. It's one thing to say, I have nobody to turn to except you, O Lord. Okay, so that is perhaps an abstract way of saying that he's our sole refuge. But however, that's not how the AzhvAr does it. The AzhvAr does it in a very convincing way by giving us an analogy, a picture that we can relate to. So the picture that he paints for us is a child that has been spurned by its mother for whatever reason. Maybe the child was being unreasonable, or that the mother is just tired. For whatever reason, she has spurned the child, and the child is really crying because the child is not capable of saying, you're not being fair to me, so I'm going to the next house and appeal to the next house mommy, for example. It's not going to say that. So when you spurn that child, the child is simply going to cry and will want your grace even more. It's not going to say, well, she rejected me, so I should try to find somebody else. And the AzhvAr says that that's exactly the attitude that we should have in times when we feel rejected by Emperuman. Okay, so the meaning of this this verse goes something like this: the sufferings you give us. So this is addressed to the Lord of Tiruvittuvakodu. So the you here refers to that Vittuvakotammane, the Vittuvakodu Lord. So he says, the sufferings you give us, if you don't stave them off, if you don't remove those sufferings, if you don't stop them from getting to me, then even in that case, even in that case, even if you don't stop the sufferings that you give me, I have no refuge apart from your lotus feet. So that is the bottom line message the AzhvAr gives. I have no refuge. Even if you continually keep giving me sufferings, I have no refuge other than you. And then he goes on to say, oh, you know, this is fragrance-filled flower gardens surround Tiruvuttuvakodu, and oh Lord residing there. So the second line is his way of addressing the Lord in Tiruvuttuvakodu. And then he goes on to give the analogy of a mother from being very angry with the child, just rejecting her or spurning that child, and the child still thinks only of her grace. So he says, from anger so great, a child's own mother, even if she spurns him or her, the child will think only of her grace, that is the mother's grace and love, and it will cry. And I am exactly like him or her. I am exactly like that child. So you see, that's a beautiful analogy. No matter, so even if the mother spurns their child, even if she says something like that, the child is going to say, you are my mother, I want your grace. Okay, so you can see this child still imagining, you know, being coddled by the mother. So that's the picture. That's the picture that the child wants to become reality. Just because the mother rejected him, the child doesn't feel that he needs to go somewhere else. Okay, so I mentioned this concept of ananya gatitvam. So gati means refuge. Anya gati means taking refuge elsewhere. Elsewhere meaning something other than Emperuman. Ananya gatitvam means taking refuge only in Emperuman, not anywhere else. Okay, so that ananya gatitvam is what is emphasized by this particular verse, and in fact this whole padigam as well. Okay, and even though it uses the idea of a mother and a child, this is the first of the 9 relationships that we saw on the previous slide. It's referred to as pita putra sambandham. So the father child, the son relationship, but really you should generalize it, the parent-child relationship. That relationship should exist between the Paramatma and the Jivatma. Okay, so think of this, the first pasuram, as saying that we should have a pita putra sambandham with the Emperuman. Okay, so let's go through the pasuram word by word and try to understand the meaning. Tarutuyaram taDAyEl. Tuyaram means suffering. Taru, நீ எனக்கு தருகின்ற துயரத்தை தடுக்காவிட்டாலும், that is the sufferings that you give me, even if you don't stop them. So he's addressing the Emperuman and he says, the sufferings you give me. Now the question is it really Emperuman who gives us the sufferings, or is it our is it our karma that is giving us the sufferings? Okay, so I'll explain that point later. But for the time being, just take it as it says. The sufferings that you give me, even if you don't stop them, un charan allal charan illai. Now there are 2 similar sounding words, charan allal charan illai, but these are 2 different charans. Just like Sri Venkatesa charanau sharanam prapadye, that charanau is different from the sharanam, right? So that is different. So you can see that similarly, this charan is that charanau part. It refers to the feet. Un tiruvadigal allam illa allamal sharan illai, I have no other refuge. So this is feet and this is refuge, because when you summarize both the charan, the charanau and the sharanam, they become the same word, charan. Okay, so un charan allal sharan illai, un tiruvadi illamal yanakku veru oru gatiyam illai. So I have no refuge other than your feet. Virai kuruvum, virai means fragrance, virai kuruvum, fragrance filled, malar puril, malar means flower, puril means garden, flower, sur means a surround. So fragrance filled flower gardens surround Vittuvakodu. Tiruvuttuvakodu is the salam that the AzhvAr is doing Mangala Shasnam of that stalam. Vittua kotu ammane. Amman here means to the Lord. Okay, so fragrance-filled flower gardens surround Tiruvittua kodu. O Lord residing there. Ari Sinattal. Sinattal means kobattal, that is from anger. Ari Sinattal, from very great anger. Indrathai, that is the own mother who gave birth. Indrathai refers to the mother who gave birth. So a child's own mother. Ahatridinum, ni enakku vendam endru aval ahatrivitalum. Even if she spurns the child, him or her, ahatridinum. Matru aval then, anda ammavin, anda annayin, arul ninainde. So the arulai ninaite. So thinking only of her grace, Arum Kuravi, Kuravi in this case refers to the child, Arum Kuravi, just as the child cries, thinking only of her grace, even when he or she has been spurned by the mother, Aduve pondru irundene, anda kurandai pondre nan irundene, which means that Emperuman, despite all the sufferings that you give me, I still take refuge in your feet only. I have nowhere else to go to. Okay, so that's the meaning of the pasuram. Now I talked about this tarutuyaram. So is it really Emperuman who gives us all the sufferings? Aren't sufferings our own making, as in from our past lives, all the bad things that we did in our past lives? They create this karma, and the karma leads to the sufferings. So there's an explanation here. So one of the acharyas says, Nam seyyum sila செயல்கள், that is some of the acts that we do, எம்பெருமானுக்கு உகப்பாக அதுவே புண்ணியமாகவும், that is, if they are pleasing to Emperuman, they get called punya. Illayyanil, if they are not so, that is, if they are not pleasing to Emperuman, illayyanil பாபமாகவும் மாறுகின்றன, they become sins. So ஆக யாவையும் எம்பெருமானின் திருவுள்ள உகப்பை பொறுத்தது. So whether something is a punya or a papa, it all depends on whether it's pleasing to Emperuman. So in that sense, he is the one who is responsible for something being called a punya or a papam. And in that sense, he is the one who has decided that what we are doing, that we have done a lot of papas, for example, and is giving us sufferings as a result of that. So in some sense, it kind of puts the responsibility on Emperuman. You are the one who created the laws. So in that sense, I have a right to put the blame on you. So that's the attitude that kulasEkhara AzhvAr takes in this particular pasuram. Now, also in terms of other related things, un charan allal charan illai, un tiruvadiyai allamal enakku veru gati illai. So that concept, I have that ananya gatitvam, the idea that I have no gati other than you, and that also appears in several other pasurams in Nalayara Divya Prabandhams. So I'm just giving you a couple of examples. One of them is Thiruvaimuri, that is Sri Nammalvar's Thiruvaimuri Prabandham. One of those pasurams says, Puhal Vandrilla Adiyen, Un Adikir Amarndu Puhundene. So you see, Puhal means refuge. Puhal Vandru Illa Adiyen. Veru oru Puhalam illada inda Adiyen. Un Adiyin Kir Amarndu Puhundene. So this Adiyen, this Adiyar, this servant of yours, because I have no other refuge, I am sitting near your feet and taking refuge in you. So this is a very famous pasuram from Thiruvaimuri. And then also related to this idea of a tarutuyaram taDAyEl, நீ எனக்கு தருகின்ற துயரங்களை தடுக்காவிட்டால், if you don't stop the sufferings that you give me. So there are other pasurams from the Nalayara Divya Prabandhams which also talk about that. So here the kulasEkhara AzhvAr says, if you don't stop the sufferings, then he says, I will still take refuge in you. Here another Thiruvaimuri pasuram says, Kalaivai Tunbam, Kalayadu Urivai, Kalaihan Matru Ilain. It says here, Tunbam Kalaindalum Seri, Ni Kalayamal Urindalum Seri. That is, Ni Kalayadu Vittu Seri, Kalaihan Gati Refuge Matru Ilain. So in other words, if you remove my sufferings, or if you don't remove my sufferings, it doesn't matter what you choose to do. Refuge, I have none other. I have no other refuge. And then, so see, that's the same concept. So he says, regardless of whether you remove my sufferings or you don't, I have no other refuge. Valaivai, Nemi Padayai. That's what Nemi refers to the Chakrayutam. So he says, oh, the one holding the Chakrayutam. Kudandai Kidanda Mamaya, oh Lord, who is in the lying position in Tirukudandai or Kumbakonam as Aravamudan. Talara Udalam Yanadu Avi. Talara Udalam means that when my body weakens, Yanadu Avi Sarindu Pom Borde, and as my life withers away. So he's talking about the end of his life. So when my body weakens and my life withers away from my body, Yanadu Avi Sarindu Pom Borde, Ilayadu, that is without fail, without interruption, Unatar, un tiruvadiyai, that your feet, urunga pidithu, irukka pidithu, firmly holding on to, poda isainiye. Please make it as your sankalpam, that when my body weakens and my life withers, at that time, please make sure that I hold on to your feet steadfastly, firmly, even in that situation. So you see, so he's making a very passionate request to Emperor, saying that whether you take care of my sufferings or not, I have no other refuge than you. And when life is about to disappear from my body, then please make sure that I'm still holding on to your feet. Now that part, there are other AzhvArs who take a different slant on this. Even kulasEkhara AzhvAr in Mukundamala, for example, he says, Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavada Pittai Kanta Varodana Vidau Smaranam Kutaste. So he says, Prana Prayana Samaye, and Nirudeya Pranan Prayanam Sayyapogam Samayatil. That is, as my life is about to leave my body, Kapavada Pittai, that is, all these imbalances between these Ayurvedic natures like Kapha, Vata, Pitta, those imbalances will strangle my neck. Kanta Varodana Vidau. They will be strangling my neck. And when that happens, at the time when my life is about to leave my body, Smaranam Kutaste. Oh Lord, how do you expect me to remember you? Smaranam means thinking. Kutaste, how do you expect me to remember you? So effectively in that Sanskrit verse, Mukundamala, kulasEkhara AzhvAr says that, so because at the time my life is about to leave my body, I will not be able to think of you, so give me deliverance right now, he says, okay? And then, so there are other approaches as well. For example, Periyar says, Appode kippode solli vaithen aranga taravanai palliyane. So you see here, Nammarvar says, when my life is about to leave my body, please make sure that I'm thinking of you. Whereas Periyar takes a more pragmatic approach. He says, there's no way I'm going to remember you when my life is about to leave my body. So he says, I am telling you right now itself that I will not be able to think of you when my pranan is about to go on its prayanam. So you better, give me deliverance now. So you see, there are various approaches. So I just wanted to illustrate those interesting differences. Okay. Now, one last comment about this idea of a child going back to its mother. So there was an acharya called Nambiyandan a long time ago, and he had a sishyan called Tiruvazhi Valanadu Dasar. And Nambiyandan, in those days, Gurukulam days, the sishya stayed with the guru in the guru's house, and then the guru taught them everything they knew, the Vedas and so on. So one day, this Nambiyandan, the Acharyan, was very upset with his Sishya, Tiruvazhi Valanadu Dasar. So he just expelled him from his home. He said, just get lost, Oranjabo. So he said, Tirumbi Varade, Oranjabo. So, okay, so, and then he slams the door on him, and then he goes on to do his work. And then he sleeps peacefully. The next day morning, he has his breakfast, etc. And then he opens the door and he comes out and he still sees that Tiruvazhi Valanadu Dasar is still there on his porch. He has not gone to his home. He has not had anything to eat. He didn't even sleep that night. And so Nambiyandan was very much surprised and he was very impressed. And he said, why are you still here? And the Thiruvaradi Valanadu Dasar apparently said this. He said, "Oru naal, just oru naal, one day, oru pidi soru ittavan, ella padiyalum nindittalum, vasal vittu pogiradillai naai, naan enge povadu." So you see, he's comparing himself. So he gives an analogy. He says, you know, if you feed a dog even just one handful of rice, just for one day, and thereafter you curse the dog over and over again, that dog is not going to leave your home. He's still going to stay in front of your home, hoping that you will change your mind and that you will feed him something. So that's very heartrending, isn't it? Oru pidi soru ittavan, ella padiyalum nindittalum, vasala vittu pogiradillai naai. So naaye appadi seyyum பொழுது நான் எங்கே போவது. So that's the kind of attitude that we should have towards Emperuman when we are overcome by adversity. We should not feel that he has abandoned us, and therefore we should abandon him as well. We should always take refuge in him. Okay. So anyway, so that's the meaning of this very beautiful pasuram. The whole reason that I selected this padiyam as the first padiyam to introduce to you is because it is so rich in its meaning. And it's also because, you know, this is a situation that all of us encounter very often. Adversities are everybody's experience, and therefore we can relate to this very, very easily. Hopefully, when you have gone through this padiyam and you have internalized its meaning and you chant it over and over again, your approach to the adversities in life will change. And to that extent, the Nalayana Divya Prabandhams, just like Upanishads and just like Bhagavad Gita, you can take them as a life manual, you know, how to live this life. Okay. Okay. So let me try to teach you how to chant this, and then I'll go on to the next pasuram. Okay. So the first time I say it, listen to me. Second time I say it, chant it, but keep yourself muted. Tarutuyaram taDAyEl, tarutuyaram taDAyEl, un saranallal saranillai, un saranallal saranillai, virai kuruvum malatpuril sur, virai kuruvum malatpuril sur, vitruvakkottamane, vitruvakkottamane, Arisenattal indradai, Arisenattal indradai, அகற்றிடினும் அகற்றிடினும் மற்றவள்தன் அருள் நினைந்தே அழும் குழவி, மற்றவள்தன் அருள் நினைந்தே அழும் குழவி, அதுவே போன்றிருந்தேனே, அதுவே போன்றிருந்தேனே. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the pasuram. So I will play it twice. So this pasuram, the Goshti rendering of this pasuram will happen twice. So feel free to recite it on both of those occasions, keeping yourself muted. Okay.
Tarutuyaram taDAyEl, un saranallal saranillai, virai kuruvum malatpuril sur, vitruvakkottamane, arisinattal indradai, agatridinum, மற்றவள்தன் அருள் நினைந்தே அழும் குழவி, அதுவே போன்றிருந்தேனே. தருதுயரம் taDAyEl, உன் சரணல்லால் சரணில்லை, விரை குழுவும் மலர்பொழில் சூழ், விற்றுவக்கோட்டம்மானே, அரிசினத்தால் இன்றதாய் அகற்றிடினும் மற்றவள்தன் அருள் நினைந்தே அழும் குழவி, அதுவே போன்றிருந்தேனே.
Okay. So one last point that I want to make about this particular pasuram is, if you think about the relationship of the child to its mother, how long has the child known its mother? Well, so we're talking about a child that's maybe a year or so old. So for the 9 months that the child was in the womb, plus the year since birth, so we are talking about a couple of years at best. So even though the child has known its mother for only 2 years, that child has an irrevocable bond with its mother, so an irreversible bond with its mother. So if a child with just 2 years of relationship can develop that much faith and that much trust in the mother, shouldn't we, the Jivatmas, who have known the Paramatma for an eternity, the Bhagavad Gita says that the Jivatma is eternal. So it says, for example, Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyamah sarve vayamatah param. So essentially Krishna says there never was a time when I did not exist. Natvevaham jatu nasam, natvam, nor you, neme janadhipa, not all these kings. So that there never was a time when I did not exist, you did not exist, or all these people did not exist. Na chaiva na bhavishyamaha, and it is not true that we will not exist. So the Bhagavan is using double negatives there. Sarve vayamatah param, all of us hereafter. So if you remove the double negatives, it means that you will continue to exist forever. So you see that we have been, the Jivatmas, all of us have Jivatmas, so we have been around for eternity. There's a saying that says that we have had more births than the number of grains on a beach, for example. So our relationship with Emperuman has lasted for eternity. And if a child with just 2 years of relationship can feel that irrevocable, irreversible bond with its mother, why can't we Jivatmas who have known the Paramatma for a much, much, much longer period, why can't we learn from that child and develop the same kind of unfailing trust and faith in that Paramatma? Okay, so that's the bottom line message of this pasuram. Okay, with that we can go on to the second pasuram. The second pasuram introduces another example, essentially to illustrate the same point. Okay, so here you have to imagine. So here's the bottom line message: a husband to a virtuous lady. So you are to me. So remember that one of those the 9 relationships that we saw was husband-wife relationship. So that's the kind of relationship that is invoked by this pasuram. It's known as the bhartu bharya sambandham. The bhartu is the husband, bharya is the wife, bhartu is Emperuman, bharya is us. Of course, he being the purusha, he is the male. We all the jivatmas are considered female, and therefore the bharya. And that's the second kind of relationship that we have with them, with Emperuman. So let's look at the meaning of this second pasuram. So essentially this pasuram will say, so if the husband of a virtuous lady, even if he is very unkind to her in a way that onlookers, everybody deplores, that everybody mocks, for example, this virtuous lady, this is particularly true of the olden times, this virtuous lady is not going to think of anyone other than that husband who married her. She won't think of anyone else. And so like that, the AzhvAr is going to say, even if you don't take me as your servant and you rule me, if I will take refuge only in your tiruvadigal, in your lotus feet. Okay, so that's the bottom line that he has in this particular verse. The idea is the same, ananya gatitvam. I have no recourse other than you. I have no refuge other than you. Okay, so he's going to say, so even if the husband engages only in behavior that onlookers deplore. So I'm trying to give meaning in a way that they directly match the phrases that you see here. So you have asterisks indicating where you should pause during chanting. So that asterisks normally, so naturally break up the verse into phrases. For example, Kandarigarvanave is a phrase, Kadalandan Sediranam is a phrase, etc. Just so that you can understand the meaning of the individual phrases, I tried to give the meaning that to match directly. So it may require a little bit of rearranging them to construct full sentences out of them, but it should not be very difficult. So that's the reason that, when I'm explaining it, I'm starting with here. Even if the husband engages only in behavior that onlookers deplore, the virtuous woman won't think of anyone other than that husband who married her. So it's just that when they write poetry, the poets are have that poetic license, so they can rearrange the order of the phrases, for example. Okay, so you understand the meaning. So the virtuous woman is not going to think of anyone other than the husband who married her, even if he is unkind to her, even if he indulges in behavior that onlookers deplore. And like that virtuous lady, and then he describes the beauty of Tiruvittuvakodu. The Vittuvakodu is surrounded by ramparts, madilgal, that touch the sky. And so the lord of that city, even if you don't take me as your servant and rule me, I will take refuge only in your anklets that tinkle, basically in your lotus feet. Okay. Okay. So let's go through the verse and try to understand the meaning word by word. Kandar igalvanave. Kandar means on kanbavargal, the onlookers. Igalvanave, igalam vidamaga, in a way that onlookers deplore or mock. Kadalan dan seididinam. Kadalan in this case refers to the husband. The husband, the kanavan, kandar igalumbadiyaga karyangal seididinam. If he behaves in ways that onlookers are repulsed by it, that onlookers deplore. So even if the husband engages only in that kind of behavior, kundanayallal, avalai kannigadanam kundanai kundavanayallal, namely her husband, apart from that husband, other than that husband who married her, ariya kulamagal bol. Kulamagal means a virtuous lady. Avanai tavira veru oruvanayum ariyada kulamagal bol. Avanai tavira veru oruvanai patriyum நினைக்க முடியாத அளவுக்கு நல்ல குலமகளாக உள்ள இந்த மனைவி போல், அரியா குலமகள் போல். So other than the husband who married her, the virtuous woman won't think of anyone. அவளை போல, like her. Vin toy, vin means the sky, toy means to touch, mother means rampart. So the ramparts that touch the sky, pudai-sur, they surround this Tiruvittuvakodu. That Vittuvakodu Amma, the Lord of that Tiruvittuvakodu, ni kondalaya. So the way it splits, the kondalaya phrase is ni kondu plus alai plus agilum. Ni ennai aatkondu alamatai agilum. So even if you won't take me as your servant and rule me, so that's what it means here, even if you don't take me as your servant and rule me, un kurai kadale kuruvane. Kadal, of course, refers to anklets. So this is an indirect way of referring to the Emperuman's feet. He's referring to the anklet. Kurai kadal. Kurai is a sound. So the anklets make a tinkling sound because they usually have some moving balls inside them. Un kurai kadale kuruvane. Unnudaya kurai kadalin perumayaye naan koorikondiruppen. அல்லது உன்னுடைய திருவடியிலேயே நான் என்னை சமர்ப்பித்துக் கொள்வேன். Okay, so I will take refuge only in your anklets that tinkle. Kurai refers to that sound, that tinkling sound that the anklets will make. Okay, so here he is emphasizing that bhattu bharya sambandham. The idea is still the same. Even just as a virtuous lady will not think of anyone other than her husband, even if he is unkind to her, in a similar way, I will only take refuge in you, even if you don't seem to care about me. Okay, un kurai kadale kuruvane. So you can see the picture where the bhakta is taking refuge at the feet of Emperuman. Okay, so now here the AzhvAr is saying, நீ கொண்டு ஆளாய் ஆகிலும், நீ எங்களை ஆட்கொண்டு ஆளமாட்டாய் ஆகிலும், even if you don't take me as your servant and rule me. So the AzhvAr kind of gives that possibility, raises that possibility that Emperuman may not take us as his servant. But it's interesting to see what some other AzhvArs say. For example, if you look at Tirupavai, Sri Andal does not even give that option to Emperuman. So the Tirupin says, in Chitranchirugale, Sri Andal says, Petramme tunnum kulatil pirandini, kuttrevalengalai kollamal pohade. you cannot avoid taking us on as your servant. So here AzhvAr says, the kulasEkhara AzhvAr says, even if you don't take us as your servant, whereas here Sri Andal says, you don't have that choice, Emperman. You have to take us as your servant. Kutravel engalai kullamar pohade. Okay, so it's a very interesting difference in the way that different AzhvArs talk about the same situation. Okay, so let's try to chant this. I'll teach you how to chant this. Again, I'll chant it twice. Second time you say it with me, keep yourself muted. Okay. Kandar igalvanave, Kandar igalvanave, Kadalandan seididinum, Kadalandan seididinum, Kondanayallal, Kondanayallal, Ariya kulamagal bol, Ariya kulamagal bol, Ventoy madal budaisur, Ventoy madal budaisur, Vitruvakottamma, Vitruvakottamma, Ni kondalayagilum, Ni kondalayagilum, Un kuraigalale kuruvane, Un kuraigalale kuruvane. Okay, now we'll play the Goshti. Okay, here we go. So it'll play once and then I will stop and reposition it so it'll play for a second time, okay? Here we go.
Kandarigalvanave, Kadalandan seididinum, Kondanayallal, Ariya kulamagal bol, Bindoy madal pudaisol, Vitruvakottamma, Ni kondalayagilum, Un kuraigalale kuruvane.
Okay, let me reposition it to 342.
Kandarigalvanave, Kadalandan seididinum, Kondanayallal, Ariya kulamagal bol, Bindoy madal pudaisol, Vitruvakottamma, Ni kondalayagilum, Un kuraigalale kuruvane.
Okay, so that was the second pasuram, and so we saw a second analogy in that pasuram, and it's patterned after the Bhattu Bharya Sambandham, so it's one of the 9 relationships, Navavida Sambandham. Okay, pasuram number 3. So here again, the AzhvAr gives another analogy. He says, the relationship between you and me is that you are, just as a ruler is to a subject, so you are to me. Okay, so that is the relationship that he is going to expound on in this third pasuram of his. So again, the idea is the same. So if you have a king, you are the subject of a king. And if the king is not particularly benevolent, if he, for example, neglects his duties, etc., you are still going to look up as a subject to that king, in order to correct all the wrongs. So you have no other place to go to. So that's exactly the point that he is making here. And that sambandham is called Shesha, Sheshi Sambandham. Shesha means the servant. Sheshi means the owner, Sambandham. So Shesha is the Jivatma, Sheshi is the Paramatma, Sambandham. I think I should probably rearrange the order here. It's the Jivatma, Paramatma, according to the order in which these two have been spelled out. I will do that. So anyway, so the pasuram is going to say something like this. So first it describes the beauty of Vittuvakodu. And let me go through that, the beauty of Vittuvakodu. So the AzhvAr wants to say that Vittuvakodu is very beautiful. It is naturally rich in water. And therefore the crops grow well, etc. So it's an indirect way of paying compliments to Emperuman, because after all the riches that any that any city has come from Emperman. So he kind of indirectly pays compliments to the Emperman for making Vittuva Kodu the fertile land that it is. So he says essentially that the Vittuva Kodu has very water-rich paddy fields. So you can see that picture. It has very water-rich paddy fields. So it's never short of water. So that's the point that he's trying to make, because it's always fertile. But it's so much so that even fish, remember that the AzhvAr is in Kerala, he ruled the Chera kingdom. And so think of the Kolli, his capital, as being close to the Arabian Sea. So the sea is very close by. And what the AzhvAr says is this: the fish from the sea look to the fields of this Tiruvittuva Kodu, and they see so much water there, and they feel relieved. Why do they feel relieved? They feel relieved because they say that even if the sea in which we live, if it runs dry, we don't have any problems. We can just move to these water-rich fields. So in that sense, we have a safe haven. Okay, so that's the picture that the AzhvAr paints. You have to imagine that the fish from the sea looking to the fields and feeling happy that we do have a safe haven after all, even if the sea runs dry, as if that's a likely scenario. So here he's going to say that large water-rich paddy fields that sea-living fish look to as their safe haven if the sea runs dry, they surround Tiruvittuva Kodu. So again, it's a way of paying compliment to Emperman. And oh, it's Lord. So Vittuva Kodu Mane. Even if you don't grace me with your kataksham, even if you don't grace me with your looks, with your vision, I will not seek any other refuge than you. So that's a recurring refrain from this padigam. And then he gives an analogy: without protecting his subjects. So now he's talking about an analogy and a king who is not exactly very benevolent. Okay, he says, if the king, without protecting his subjects, however many hardships the king inflicts on them, on the subjects, that is, if a king, without protecting his subjects, inflicts however many hardships on them, the subjects will still look to the garland-wearing king's scepter. The scepter is the sengol. In Tamil, they talk about this sengol, which is a kind of a metaphor for benevolence. So in English, they call it the scepter. So the subjects will look to that king's benevolence only, because they cannot go anywhere else. No other king is going to come and help them. So in that sense, the subjects will look to the garland-wearing king's scepter only. And I am exactly like those subjects. Okay, so that's the message that he's going to give. And so let's try to understand the pasuram word by word. Mean nokum neel vayal sur Vitruva Kotamma. So the Vitruva Kodu, so it is surrounded by, sur means surround, vayal, so paddy fields. Neel vayal, they are very large paddy fields, and indirectly they are water-rich paddy fields. That's why I put that in parentheses. Mean nokum, kadalil varum meengal nokuhindra vayal, because they look to this field from the sea as the safe haven in case the sea runs dry. Okay, so that kind of fertile, water-rich paddy fields surround Vittuva Kodu, O Lord of that Vittuva Kodu. Yen pal nokai agilam. So the pal should be read together with n. Yen pal nokai agilam. Yennidam nokamatai agilam. That is, if you don't grace me with your kataksham. Un patru allal. Patru refers to refuge. Un patru allal patrilayan. So I have no other refuge other than your holy feet. I will not seek any other refuge than you. Un patru allal patru ilayen. Adai tavira yanakku veru oru patrum illai, veru oru sharana gatiyum illai. And then the analogy starts here. Than nokadu ettuyaram seididinum tar vendan. Vendan means king. Tar vendan means that the king who is wearing garland. Kings are supposed to be wearing a garland. And so the garland-wearing king, Tan Nokade, even if he does not look at the subjects, Tan Nokade, even if he does not look at the subjects, Yettuheram Seidinam, Endavidamana Tuyarangalai Avan Seidalam, no matter what kinds of hardships he inflicts on the subjects, what are the subjects going to do? Kol noki varum kudi. The kudi refers to the subjects. Kol noki, well, they will only look to his scepter, his kol, his sengol, for correction of their problems. Kol noki varum kudi bondru irundene. So just like those kudi, just like those subjects, I am like them. Okay, that's what he's saying. Okay, so that's the meaning of this. And it turns out that this kol noki varum kudi, it's a phrase that occurs in Tirukkural as well. So in one of the Tirukkurals, you know, is very short, usually about a line and 3/4 long. So it gives an example. It says, "Van noki varum ulagellam, mannavan kol noki varum kudi." Okay, so it tries to talk about how important a king is to his subjects and what great responsibility the king has. So it says, "Van noki varum ulagellam." All the whole world will look to the sky for its sustenance, for living, for thriving. So all the fields, etc., and all the people will look to the sky for the rains, so that they can survive, they can thrive. Van noki varum ulagellam. Similarly, mannavan kol noki varum kudi. So just similarly, a king's kol, the scepter, the benevolence, noki, adai noki, varum kudimakkar. So the kudimakkar, the subjects, will look to the scepter of the king, the benevolence of the king, the same way that all the crops look to the sky for the rain, so that they can live, so that they can thrive. Okay. So the kol noki varum kudi is an analogy that appears in other literature as well. Okay, let me try to recite this, and then you can chant after me. Min nokum nirvayal sur, min nokum nirvayal sur, vitruvakkotamma, vitruvakkotamma, yen palno kaya agilam, yen palno kaya agilam, un patrallal patrilen, un patrallal patrilen, tanno kaadettuyaram, tanno kaadettuyaram, seididinum, seididinum, tarvendan kol nokki varum, tarvendan kol nokki varum, kudivondrirundene, kudivondrirundene. Okay, so now we play. Okay, so again, this will play the pasuram once. I will stop it and reposition the cursor so it will repeat it.
Innokkum nirvayal sur, vitruvakkotamma, yen palno kaya agilam, un patrallal patrilen, tanno kaadettuyaram, seididinum, tarvendan kol nokki varum, kudivondrirundene.
Okay, I'll reposition it, 408. Okay, we go.
Innokkum nirvayal sur, vitruvakkotamma, yen palno kaya agilam, un patrallal patrilen, tanno kaadettuyaram, seididinum, tarvendan kol nokki varum, kudivondrirundene.
Okay, I'll just cover one more pasuram today. So if you can bear with me, even if it takes a couple of extra minutes, I would appreciate that very much. Okay, so pasuram number 4, it again brings up another beautiful analogy. So this time, the AzhvAr says, what a healer is to a sick one, that's what you, Emperuman, are to me. What a healer is to a sick one, that's what you, Emperuman, are to me. Okay. So you have to think about it this way. So this is, the AzhvAr lived in a time when anesthetic was not exactly in vogue. Anesthetics had not been invented. So when the doctors did surgeries, so it will be very extraordinarily painful. So you have to picture that time frame in your mind when you go through this pasuram, because he's going to say that even though the surgeon's scalpel is going to hurt and burn, the patient will have abundant trust in him. Out of abundant trust, he's going to accept the pain that he is going to suffer from the surgery, simply because he trusts that the final outcome will be good for him. And in a similar way, so even if you give me pain, O Lord, I am still going to be your servant. So that's the analogy that he gives. And so, for example, it's going to say, even if the healer cuts and burns with his knife, upon that healer, the sick one shows undying love or trust. Okay, so the sick one will have undying love or trust upon that healer, even if the healer cuts and burns with his knife. And so it's hard to believe that, almost more than 1,000 years ago, the surgery was in so much vogue that the AzhvAr can talk about it like this. So he says, like that sick one who has that faith in the healer, if through the maya of my earthly existence, that is through the sharira that you have given me in this earthly existence, even if you give me unending suffering, O Lord of Tiruvittuva Kodu, that this servant, namely I, will seek your grace only to serve you. Okay, so that's exactly the same bottom line as all the other pAsurams. The only thing is that the analogy is different. It's now talking about a healer who, in the process of healing, inflicts pain. Even today, for example, even though you have anesthetics available, if you're taking a treatment for, say, cancer, for example, you can think of chemotherapy. Or if you have broken a bone and if you've had a surgery, you can talk about the physiotherapy that follows it. These are all very painful methods which you really put up with, because in the long run they will lead to good outcomes, or at least you believe that they will lead to good outcomes. Okay, so this relationship is called Rakshaka Rakshya Sambandham. Rakshaka is the protector, the Rakshya is the protected, Sambandham. So that's the Sambandham between the Paramatma and Jivatma that this one is talking about. Okay, so let's, and then you can see a picture of Sushruta, is a famous surgeon from the ancient India, performing a surgery in that time. So you can see that in place of the anesthetic is really these two people who are trying to keep him in place and keep him from squirming, for example. Anyway, so let me go through the pasuram and try to give the word for word meaning. Valal aruttu chudinum, maruttuvan pal. Maruttuvan means the healer. Valal, val means a sword normally, but in this case it refers to a knife. Any sharp instrument would be called a val, can be called a val. Valal aruttu. So if the maruttuvan, if the healer, valal with his knife, aruttu, if he cuts the sick one, and sudinum means burns. Okay, so if he hurts him, if he burns him, the burning part, you can think of it as simply the cutting causing burns, or maybe he sterilized his instrument and so that is causing a burn. Or in nowadays they call a procedure called cauterizing. They for example, if you have a bleed, they may cauterize it, so which is again by using heat to seal the bleed, for example. So you can think of sudinum in many of several ways. So even if the surgeon, if the healer cuts and burns with his knife, that maruttuvan pal, upon that healer, mala the kadal. The AzhvAr uses the word kadal. Kadal generally, you use that to refer to the love between, a man and a woman, for example. But the AzhvAr here refers to the love, or really the trust that the patient has on the healer. Marlada kadal. So marlada means undying love that he has, undying faith that the sick one has on the maruttuvan, on the healer. So the noyalan is the name for the sick one, noyalan pol. So just like that noyalan, just like that sick one, Mayatal, think of Mayatal as through the Sharira that you have given me. Mila tuyar darinam. Mila means unending, tuyar means suffering, darinam, even if you give me. So even if you give me unending suffering through this Shariram that you have given me, O Vittuva Kotamma, O Lord of Tiruvittuva Kodu, Ni Ala Unadu Arule Parpan Adiyene. Okay, so Adiyene, this Adiyen, Parpan, I will look to. Unadu Arul, so your grace, the grace to, for what kind of a grace? Ni Ala, Ni Ennai Ala Vendum Engira grace. Arulaye நான் எதிர்பார்த்திருப்பேன். நீ என்னை ஆள வேண்டும் என்கிற அருளையே நான் எதிர்பார்த்திருப்பேன். Okay, so that's exactly what he says. Your grace only. So now, because I want to serve you, this servant will seek nothing but that. Okay. Okay. Now, I want to read something that Annangaracharya, one of the Vyakyanakatas, has said. He says, Niye enakku sarva vidakshagan endru naan tuninda pinbe. That is, after I have determined that you are the protector of me in all ways, Ni enakku evvalavu tunbangalai ivvibhutiyile thandarulinalum. Okay, so no matter how much sufferings you give me in this vibhuti, in this lila vibhuti, and look at the phrase here, tunbangalai thandu arulinalum. Tunbangalai tarvavan eppadi arula mudiyum, right? So isn't there a paradox here? Tunbangalai thandu arulinalum. It says, even if you grace me by giving me sufferings. Okay, so now the question is, how can you call it a grace when there is sufferings that you receive from Emperuman? Okay, but that's exactly the perspective that the AzhvAr wants you to have. The AzhvAr essentially says, no matter what Emperuman gives you, think of it as his grace only. So, for example, even in Tirupavai, Andal says, Ariyada Pillaigalom Anbinal Undannai Siruper Arethanavum Siri Arulade. Siri means getting angry. So how can Andal calls getting angry as Arul, as grace? Again, because the same perspective. So you look at everything that Emperuman does as grace. Okay, so in fact, in Tiruvaimuri, Sri Nammalvar says, Yen Piraye Ninaindarulit Arulada Tirumalarku. So that is the Tirumal, the Emperuman is thinking only about my sins. Yen Piraye Ninaindu Aruli. He's thinking only about my sins. But then he refers to that as Aruli. Yen Piraye Ninaindu. He's thinking only of my sins, Aruli, and that grace. So that's what Nammalvar is referring to. So it's all a question of your perspective. And that's the perspective that we should all develop. No matter what we get, whether it's happiness or suffering, we should develop the perspective that it is Emperuman's grace, and that will help us get through this life very easily. Vibhutiyile thandu arulinalum avatrayellam naan nanmayagave karudi. That is, I will think of them as good only. Mikka nandri arivu parati. I will be very grateful about that. Menmelum anbu seidu varuvene andri. My love for you will grow more and more, and nothing else. Unnai siridum kurai kura matten. So that's the attitude that we want. I will not complain about you at all. Unnai siridum kurai kura matten என்பதை உவமானத்தால் விளக்கினார். With an example, he illustrates this point. Okay, so that's the point that the AzhvAr is trying to illustrate with this pasuram. That's the attitude that we should have as well. Now, another related example, John Milton was a great English poet. Now, in the middle of his life, he became blind, and he wrote a very beautiful sonnet called On His Blindness. So it's very heartrending. For example, it starts by saying, when I consider how my light is spent means extinguished. So when I consider how my vision has been, how my sight has been extinguished, or half my days in this dark world and wide, and etc. And that one talent is referring to his vision, which is death to hide, lodged with me useless. So that vision that I should have, that is lodged with me useless, etc. So he's very frustrated by his blindness, and he even asks, oh, doth God exact day labor, light denied? So in other words, he's saying, Iduvan Emperuman in Tiruvalama, is this how he acts? Does he try to get day labor out of me by blinding me? So that's the question that he asks. You can see the frustration that is welling up in him. So doth God exact day labor? Light denied, I fondly ask. But then his own patience, sometimes people say that it refers to an angel, but in any case, his own patience apparently replies, it says, God, it goes on to say, who best bear his mild yoke? Yoke here is a metaphor for sufferings. His is emperumans or lords. Who best bear his mild yoke? They serve him best. எம்பெருமான் நமக்கு அருளும் துன்பங்களை யார் பொறுமையுடன் பொறுத்துக் கொள்கிறார்களோ அவர்கள்தான் அவனுக்கு மிக்க கைங்கரியம் செய்தவர்கள் ஆகின்றார்கள். Those who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. They also serve who only stand and wait. Sometimes we are frustrated by all the sufferings that we go through, but it goes on to say they also serve who only stand and wait, who have the patience to just stand and wait. பெருமாள் தரும் துன்பங்களை யார் அமைதியாக பொறுத்துக் கொள்கிறார்களோ அவர்களும் பெருமாளுக்கு கைங்கரியம் செய்தவர்கள் ஆவார்கள். Those they also serve who only stand and wait. Okay, so it's a very beautiful poem that John Milton wrote. It's called On His Blindness. One last example. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2:14. It says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agamopayino anityas tam titikshasva bharata. So it essentially, Lord Krishna says, contact between the senses and the objects, that's what brings about happiness and distress, O Arjuna. But remember, they are not permanent, just like winter and summer, and therefore one must learn to tolerate them. So he says, tams, that is them, tams, titikshasva, tolerate, bharata, O descendant of Bharata. And that's what we should be doing as well. So he says, whatever sufferings we have, they are non-permanent, just like winter and summer, one must learn to tolerate them. So tams titikshasva bharata. Okay, let me teach this pasuram. Valal aruttu chudinum maruttuvan bal மாளாத காதல் நோயாளன் போல் மாயத்தால் மீளா துயர்தரினும் விற்றுவக்கோட்டம்மா நீ ஆளா உனதருளே பார்ப்பன் அடியேனே. Okay, I'll play it and then that'll be the last pasuram for today. So I'll play it twice.
ஆளால் அறுத்துச் சுடினும் மருத்துவன் பால் மாளாத காதல் நோயாளன் போல் மாயத்தால் மீளா துயர்தரினும் விற்றுவக்கோட்டம்மா நீ ஆளா உனதருளே பார்ப்பனடியேனே.
Okay, let me reposition it. 437. Okay, go.
ஆளால் அறுத்துச் சுடினும் மருத்துவன் பால் மாளாத காதல் நோயாளன் போல் மாயத்தால் மீளா துயர்தரினும் விற்றுவக்கோட்டம்மா நீ ஆளா உனதருளே பார்ப்பனடியேனே.
Okay, so that's the last pasuram for today. So we will now finish off by reciting the Charama Slokam and Mangalam. Okay. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha Mangalam kosalendraya mahaniya gunadaye Chakravarti tanujaya sarvabhaumaya mangalam sarvam krishnarpanamastu. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording first.